What's up YouTube? In this video, I'll be showing you how to make a Spongebob statue. I decided it was time to revisit Spongebob since the new film's coming out, or depending on when you watch this, it's already came out. If you want to make this marginally creepy looking statue, here's what you're going to need. You will need some black wool, dark grey wool, light grey wool, white, red, cyan. You will also need some brown wool, some yellow wool, and finally grab yourself some black stained clay. And luckily for us, those are the only colours that we're going to be needing. So once you have those, and once you've figured out what you want to make it, I'll be making them right here, you're going to want to kick off your Spongebob statue with this sequence of blocks in a row on the floor. Do 1 black wool, 2 dark grey, 2 black wool, 2 dark grey, 1 black wool to give you the base row of our Spongebob statue. And once you have this row right here, we can now move on to row number 2. So for the second row, you basically just want to place dark grey wool on top of where you placed black wool on the previous row, and you want to place light grey wool on top of the dark grey wool that you placed on the previous row, like that. Once you've got that row taken care of, for the next row you want to do an entire row of red wool. For the next row, do an entire row of white wool. For the next row, do an entire row of cyan. For the next row, do an entire row of white wool. Then do 2 rows of yellow wool, so that's 1 and 2. Then do an entire row of brown wool. Then do an entire row of black stained clay. Then do an entire row of brown wool. For the next row, place 2 black stained clay in the 2 center spots of the row and then fill everywhere else in with brown. For the next row, going from left to right, do this sequence of blocks. Do 1 brown wool, 2 black clay, 2 brown wool, 2 black clay, 1 brown wool. For the next row, place a single black stained clay on the ends of your row. Then do 2 red wool in the 2 center spots of your row, and then fill everywhere else in with brown wool. For the next row, do 2 red wool in the 2 center spots of the row, and then just do brown wool everywhere else. For the next row, going from left to right, do 2 light grey, 1 white wool, 2 red wool, 1 white wool, 2 light grey. For the next 2 rows, do 4 red wool in the 4 center spots of the row, and then just fill everywhere else in with white. And as I said, you want to have that for 2 rows, so just apply the exact same thing to the row after it. Once you've done those 2 rows, for the next row, starting from the left again, do 1 brown wool, then 4 yellow wool, 1, 2, 3, 4, then 2 brown wool, 1 yellow wool. For the next row, starting from the left, do 6 yellow, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 yellow, then do 1 brown wool, then 1 yellow. For the next row, do 2 brown wool in the 2 center spots of the row, and then do yellow everywhere else. For the next row, starting from the left hand side, do 1 yellow, 1 brown, 1 black clay. How did I forget this colour? Gentlemen, we're going to need to add another colour to our repertoire. So we probably won't need... What don't we need for quite a while? I'm trying to figure this out, guys. You know what? We kind of need quite a few. So get rid of cyan for a little while, put it in your inventory, and grab some pink wool. We're going to need this for his tongue. So you started your row off, you did 1 yellow, 1 brown, 1 black clay. You then want to do 2 pink, 1 black clay, 1 brown, 1 yellow. For the next row, starting from the left again, do 1 brown, 2 black clay, 2 pink, 2 black clay, 1 brown. And for the final row of the torso, you want to place a single brown wool on the ends of your row, and then place black stained clay everywhere else in between to give you something which should look, in total, a little bit like this. Looking a little bit creepy already. That's kind of like... This statue, like, the head doesn't start where the head usually would on a statue like this. It kind of like starts midway up the torso, if you guys can imagine it. So that top bit, that bit with the brown and the pink and the black stained clay, that's kind of like SpongeBob's mouth opening. So it's going to look a lot less creepy later on. But it's kind of freaking me out right now. Anyway, once you've reached this point right here, we can now move on to the fronts of SpongeBob's arms. So come all the way over to the right hand side of your statue, and come all the way down to the first row of the torso, which is this row right here for your guys' information. Starting from this row, you want to go right of this brown block with your yellow wool by 4. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4. You then, on top of your row of 4 yellow wool, you want to stack 7 more rows of yellow. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And then we can just fill those in. Always easier to count out before we fill them in. So you want to have, in total, 8 rows of yellow wool. 1 plus 7, 8. On top of this 8th row of yellow wool, stack a row of brown wool. Then stack a row of light grey wool. Then finish off the arm by doing 2 rows of white. So what you want to end up with is something that should look exactly like this. Very, very simple. And once you've got that right arm taken care of, we can now do the exact same thing on the opposite side of our statue. So come all the way over to the left hand side of our statue, starting in line with the first row of the torso, which is this row right here again. Going left of this brown wool, just do a row of 4 yellow. 1, 2, 3, 4, whoops. I keep misplacing blocks. So once you've got that first row of 4 yellow, you then want to stack 7 more rows directly on top of it. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And then just fill those in. I always like to mark it out before I fill anything in. Usually stops some mistakes. So you want to end up with your 8 rows of yellow wool. On top of the 8th row, stack a row of brown. Then a row of light grey. And then do your 2 rows of white wool to give you something which should look, once you've completed both of the arms, just to show you everything all together, which should look exactly like this. And that is the entire front of your SpongeBob statue. And I know it's looking a little weird right now, but trust me guys, when the head's on, it'll look perfectly fine. It does look kind of strange at the moment though, I'll grant you that. Once you've reached this point here, however, we can now move on to the rest of the statue. So once you have completely finished with the front of your statue, you now want to come all the way around to the back of your statue and come all the way down to the bottoms of the feet. Take out your black wool, and you can see where we have these single black wools at the ends of the base of our statue. Just extend each one of those ends back, coming out of the back of the statue each by 3 with your black wool, so like that. You then want to connect each one of these third black wools together with this sequence of blocks. Starting from the left hand side, you just want to do 2 dark grey, 2 black, 2 dark grey, so we're kind of just mirroring what we have on the front of the statue here, so just connect them together like this. And what you've essentially done there, once you've done this little part right here, you've just made the entire base of our statue. What we're now going to do is just build up the entire back of our SpongeBob statue directly on top of these back 8 blocks, and then we'll do the sides. So for now, just focus on these back 8 blocks. So for the second row of the back of the statue, just do an entire row of dark grey wool. For the next row, do an entire row of red wool. For the next row, do an entire row of white wool. Once you've done that row of white wool, you then want to very quickly swap out your pink wool and grab your cyan back again. As a matter of fact, we won't even be needing that pink wool again. That's completely irrelevant to us now. So once you've done that row of white wool, with your cyan, just do an entire row of cyan wool. For the next row, do an entire row of white wool. You then want to do 3 solid rows of yellow wool. So that's 1, 2, and 3. Once you have your 3 rows of yellow wool, you then want to do an entire row of black stained clay. For the next row, do an entire row of brown. Then do another row of black stained clay. For the next 2 rows, you want to do this. Starting from the left hand side, do 1 black clay, 2 brown wool, 2 black clay, 2 brown wool, 1 black clay. And as I said, you want to have that for 2 rows. So once you've got that first row taken care of, just apply the exact same thing to the next row. Once you've done those, you then for the next row want to do an entire row of brown wool. Then do 3 rows of white wool, so that's 1, 2, and 3. For the next row, going from left to right, do 2 brown wool, 2 yellow wool, 2 brown wool, 2 yellow. For the next row, do, again going from left to right as most of these rows will be, do 1 yellow, 1 brown, 2 yellow, 1 brown, 3 yellow. For the next row, do an entire row of yellow wool. For the next 2 rows, do 3 yellow, 2 brown, 3 yellow. And as I said, you want to have that for 2 rows, so once you've got that first row taken care of, just do the exact same thing to the next row. And then for the final row of the back, just do an entire row of yellow wool to give you something which should, in total, look exactly like this. Again, looking a little weird and creepy from the back without the arms as well. The arms kind of make it worse, the lack of those. But we really do need the head to pull this all together. So once you've completely finished that, once you've got the back of the legs and SpongeBob's actual back taken care of, we can now move on to the backs of the arms, which are going to be extremely easy. Want to know why? Look directly forward at what you did for the fronts of the arms, and copy those directly onto the back of your statue. It is that simple. Just copy block for block what you did for the fronts of the arms, and just apply it to the back of your statue. No plans required, no instructions whatsoever, just look directly forward at what you've done and just apply it to the equivalent blocks on the back of your statues. So I'm just very quickly getting this done myself. It probably shouldn't take you too long, it's very easy. And once you've completely finished both of the backs of the arms, you want to be left with something that should look exactly like this. And those did not help whatsoever, did they? Still looking a little weird. Once you've got the entire back of your statue fully completed, you've got the backs of the legs, the back, and the backs of the arms, we can now move on to the next bit. So we're now going to take care of the sides of our SpongeBob statue. So come to this side of your statue and come all the way down to the bottom of the feet. The way that we're going to do the sides is the exact same way that we've built up every other part of the statue, either in solid rows or we'll just build things from left to right, which seems a little silly considering we only have 2 blocks, but hey, that's what we're doing. So for the second row of the side of your statue, do an entire row of dark grey wool. For the next row, do an entire row of red wool. Then do an entire row of white. Then cyan. Then white. Then do 3 rows of yellow, so that's 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and then you can just fill the entire rest of your, you know what, actually, it's not like this on the plans, but it kind of makes sense. Then for the next row after your third row of yellow, do an entire row of black stained clay, and then fill the entire rest of the sides of your legs in with brown wool. Sometimes I do ad-lib, guys, sometimes. So that is what you want to have for the sides of the legs, and I'll just show you those since I did kind of just mess that up ever so slightly, but it's really simple. 1 dark grey, red, white, cyan, white, 3 yellow, 1 black stained clay, 2 brown wool. You guys should be able to see that easy enough, it is only 2 blocks anyway. So once you've got the sides of the legs completely taken care of, we can now move on to the sides of the arms. First of all, you've just got to fill in the bottoms of the arms, which is really simple. Just do 2 rows of 4 yellow wool, just connecting the fronts and backs of the bottom of the arms together, and that will form the first row of the sides of the arms. And the way to fill in the sides of SpongeBob's arms is pretty much just a game of match the colour. Just match the colours that you have on the left and right hand sides of your statue, and then just throw whatever that colour is in between them. So here we have brown, here we have light grey, here we have white. Very, very simple. So you guys can probably see quite easily what I've done there. And once you've got the sides of the arms taken care of as well, we now just have to fill in the top of the shoulder, and you guys might be able to tell what we're going to do here. Just completely fill the tops of the shoulder in with white wool, exactly like that. Just come in by 3 rows with your white wool. You don't have to come in by any more, but don't come in by any less. And once you've done that, you should end up with something that should look a little bit like this. And I did that rather quickly, but honestly, guys, this is really, really simple. I'm sure that you will have no trouble doing this whatsoever. Once you've got that first side of your statue taken care of, we can now move over to the opposite side. So, coming to this side of your statue, this side of the statue is actually even easier than the other side of the statue. Guess why? Remember how we did the backs of the arms? Just look directly forward at what you've just done and copy it onto this side of your statue. No further explanation required, just literally look directly forward at what you did on the opposite side of the statue, and assuming that you've got it right, then you will have no trouble completing this opposite side. So just going to very quickly copy what we did on the other side of the statue. Not that it's difficult anyway, most of the sides of the statues typically are just pretty much just matching colours that you have on like the fronts of the backs and just matching them all together. Remember to fill in the top of the shoulder with 3 rows of white, 1, 2, 3. Any more is okay, but any less is not. And what you should end up with, once you've completely finished it, is just another identical side. You shouldn't be able to tell this side and the previous sides apart from each other. So once you've got both sides of your statue taken care of, there's only one thing left for us to do, SpongeBob's head. So come all the way to the front of your statue and come all the way up to the top of the torso, where we have this beautifully multicolored brown row right here. And on top of this row of brown, you want to stack a row of 8 yellow wool, just directly on top of it, like this. Once you have that row, you then want to do 2 additional rows of yellow directly in front of it. So just 1, 2 directly in front of the row that sat on top of the torso. This is going to be the first row of SpongeBob's face. We'll build up his face and then we'll build up the entire rest of his head. However, we're going to need a couple more colours to get this done. So what you guys now want to do is discard your red wool and discard your light grey wool. We won't be needing those anymore. And you now want to grab dark blue and light blue wool. We basically just need this for his eyes. So once you've got rid of, what did we get rid of? We got rid of red, I think, and we got rid of light grey. Once you've got rid of those, once you've got your 2 new blues, once you've got your 3 rows of yellow, 1, 2, 3, we can now continue on. So first of all, you just want to knock out these 4 middle blocks of this most outward row of yellow. Replace the middle 2 with black stained clay and replace the other 2 with white wool. Easier to kind of like change the row after you've made it rather than building colour into the row. That's the first row of the face. For the second row of the face, just going directly on top, build an entire row of yellow wool. For the next row, going from left to right, do 1 white wool, 1 cyan, 1 dark blue, 2 yellow, 1 dark blue, 1 cyan, 1 white wool. For the next row, do 1 white wool, 1 cyan, 1 black wool, 2 yellow, 1 black, 1 cyan, 1 white wool. For the next row, do 1 white wool, 1 light blue, 1 dark blue, 2 yellow, 1 dark blue, 1 light blue, 1 white wool. For the next row, place 2 brown wool in the 2 center spots of the row and then fill the entire rest of the row in with white wool. For the next row, going from left to right, do 1 black wool, 1 brown, 1 black, 2 yellow, 1 black, 1 brown, 1 black. For the final row of SpongeBob's face, just do an entire row of yellow wool. So what you want to end up with is something that should look a little bit like this, which it looks absolutely horrifying without the added details, but trust me, it's going to get better. Trust me when I tell you it's going to get better. Oh my god. It looks like a rejected Pokemon or something. It looks absolutely awful without the nose and the cheeks. But that is what you want to have for SpongeBob's face. Once you've taken care of that, we're then going to make the entire rest of the head, and then we'll add on the facial features, which will stop this looking like a terrifying monster. So once you've reached this point right here, come all the way around to the back of the head and take out your yellow wool. What you basically want to do is take this original row of yellow wool that we started the head off with and just extend it back over the back of the statue until the back of the head overhangs the back of the statue by 2 rows. So you just want to have something which should look a little bit like this. As you can see, the front of the head overhangs the front of the statue by 2 rows. The back of the head wants to do the exact same thing on the back. So once you've done that, you then want to take the back 2 corners of the now back of the head and extend them up each by 7. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And the other corner as well. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Then connect them together, and then connect them both all the way to the front of the head, and that will take care of SpongeBob's head. We then just have to fill them in, of course, but that's child's play, easy enough. So just once you've basically turned SpongeBob's head into a big giant cube, once you've connected everything together, you then just want to fill all 3 sides of the head in, and then fill the top of the head in as well, just with your yellow wool. So just completely fill in each one of the sides with yellow. I may have neglected to mention that before I actually started filling it in myself, but you know, I'm sure that you guys have eyes. I'm sure you guys could see what I was doing before I said it anyway. So you just want to painstakingly fill in every single side of the head until you've eventually filled in all 4 of those sides. And what you want to end up with is something that should look exactly like this, just going all the way around it. My god, that face. So, just going all the way around, you can see we've filled every single side in, and all we have to do now is add in some of those facial features that I talked about. I can't get over that face, it's awful. Alright, so once you've reached this point right here, this is what you want to do to make this look like SpongeBob. So we've got to first of all add 2 cheeks onto the statue. So just placing in front of these 2 blocks right here, just place 2 single yellow wool in those positions on the ends of the second row, like that. You then, just between these 2 bottom dark blue, you just want to kind of like do 2 rows of 2 yellow sticking out in front, like that, of the statue. And to completely finish this off, you just want to do SpongeBob's eyelashes, which you basically just want to place black wool in front of that upper black wool just above the eyes. You just want to place those 4 single black wool kind of just like poking out of the top of his eyebrows like that. And what you want to end up with is something that should look a little bit like this. Just those few changes have turned this from horrifying to adorable, and once you've added in those facial features, actually, you should have 100% fully completed your statue. And whilst it does still, on a certain level, look very creepy and scary, you can see that it's quite obviously SpongeBob. I really like this statue, and I say this about every single statue. I've realised that I love every single one of my statues just about equally, but this SpongeBob statue, it really does toe the line between just like creepy and cool. Those sound like some really weird search terms for Google, creepy and cool. I kind of want to see what that pops out. I might have to Google that in a second, see what it throws out. It will probably show you a picture of this statue, but it is a really cool looking statue. I like how it's a little different. You know how most statues are very obviously separated between like legs, body and torso, how SpongeBob kind of like half of his head is like part of his body. Really cool design, really cool statue. I really like this. So hopefully you guys have managed to make this no problem. Hopefully you're looking at your very own SpongeBob statue. Thanks for watching, guys, and I will see you in the next video. I'm going to be doing Patrick, Squidward, and probably a couple of other characters as well. Half of that stutter was fake, but I thought you guys might appreciate that. See you in the next video.